Alright, welcome back to not Roma Half. I was planning on doing that, but I decided to postpone it tomorrow because this one basically, the wait for this one was longer than Roma Half. Roma Half was like 10 months. This was 18 months since I did my last review of this one. This is a review for Tales of the Wedding Rings, anime review, episode 13. The episode is kind of titled Episode 1. But I'm just calling it just the 13th episode. So, basically, this episode covers the entirety of chapters 34, 35, with changes per se. We begin right where we left off last episode, where we have Hemi's little sister show up, Maron, where she arrives on top of the grave. Of course, she doesn't know it's a grave. Like I said, there's some changes, and it's like, "Oh, hello, big sis. Hello, brother-in-law." In the manga, she said big brother. But it's a fine wording change. It's not really gonna hurt at all. Like, oh, you're the ring maidens, and of course, basically, the Great Sage does basically mention that yes, she's Hemi's little sister. She's Crystal's little sister. So she's with the maid for 10 years. She didn't see her in a while, and then of course, basically begin their training, which kind of referred to as bridal training, which of course in the manga, if you're curious what happens next, well, I should point out that in these 4 chapters, Sato and Crystal are shown attempting to have sex at least about 3 times throughout these 4 chapters. In the anime, they actually cut out one of these attempts and just kept everything else. And they do show one later on. And also the ending of chapter 32, they put that at the end of the episode with the mild change in that one. So basically training is this. You have Maron getting Crystal to pull this staff from the ground with magic. And then she's trying, not working. Magic, and then basically, next step, makeout session, which does work. In the manga, these two actually tend to have sex, where basically she is finished doing something and she's wearing a bathrobe, and then that's when basically she gets staff out. Meanwhile, though, and here's basically the dialogue's most the same here, except the scene was changed. I should point out, though, in the manga, the rest of the bride is just sitting in a room, and then I'm trying to think what her name is. The Beast Girl. Gennart. Yes, Gennart. Where she's asking Amber to spar with her. By the way, they're sitting in a room together. In the anime, all 4 of these women are butt naked. In the anime, in a bath scene. And my guess is because the animators wanted to include a scene of nudity in the episode. My guess is because they probably want some fan service, and also it's not censored. But it's an adult anime, so I do not. Hopefully, kids don't watch it. Oh, and in case you're curious, though, is it the same studio for the first season of the show? Yes, there's no change in the people who make the show. Yeah, they didn't change that at all, which is interesting. And fun fact, the show they're also working on right now that's airing is Watarakan's censor is about the collapse, which is airing right now. You're like, really? Yes, really. It's airing right now. And before the Tales of Wedding Rings, the studio had released Am I Acting Stronger, which I actually did just this year. Great show. Kind of wish they had season 2 out of that one. And I aired roughly 2 years ago. And of course, I did review Tales of Wedding Rings. Now, as for why in the world they waited basically almost a year and a half for the next season of the show, I have no idea. It's weird. So, yeah. So we see all the girls butt naked in this bath, and then we have Gennart and Amber spar out in the yard, which is a slight change location here. In the manga, it's really quick. In the anime, it's slightly longer. They spar fit, and of course, we have the building, and that's it. And then, of course, after they get the staff out, of course, like, ooh, get the power up basically with the makeout session. So Nefertius basically volunteers to do next, and she gets kissed by Satu, and basically Power Magic, and Gennard basically wants to kiss him too, and this leads into a scene where he's like basically actually in bed, which they cut this out in the anime, and right after this, basically, they have to go to 3 locations. They have to go to the Elfa Kingdom, the Empire, and some forger place. I think it's not the Dwarven Kingdom per se, I think it's one of the air places. So, if you're like, hey, why don't I go my country versus nearby? Not a bad idea. So they go in a covered wagon. Yep. And of course, Satoru complains that his butt hurts. And then, by the way, also, Maron is flying on a broomstick. Like she's a witch. Even though she's a sorceress. Kind of interesting, the fact, basically, to pick this way. Which is, by the way, this moment of her flying on a broomstick, that's completely made for the anime. They did not put that in the manga at all. My guess is the reason I threw this in because I thought, hey, she can use magic. Why not have her you flying a broomstick because she's hot? So, and then the Abyss monsters attack, and then Satoru tries to help, but then his body is not working. You're probably thinking, was this made for the anime? Yes, it was. This was completely made for the anime. This scene is complete anime original. Well, part of the scene anyways, probably because Satoru doesn't do much this, because in the manga he doesn't do anything here. In the anime he attempts to, and of course Gennard does get injured by one of the Abyss monsters, which of course basically Saphir, Brandon Kawatz's character, she heals with water magic, which that did happen. Sorry about that. Yes. And then the chorus ends with this inn, which of course all there's some drinking, of course. And of course, Great Sage basically gets some advice on merchants. And then we see Crystal and Satoru walk over the shore, and of course they talk to each other a bit. And then they go to their room. And Satoru, there's a bit wording change here because in the manga, he's asking about birth control. In the anime, he's asking about protection. And also, in our rarity for English dubs, we have a character drop an F-bomb. But there's a reason for it. Because basically he's talking about having sex with her. And, well, they sit on a bed and Maron seeing them. And then later on, Maron is basically bathing. Where we do see her butt sticking out of the water. Which, this is definitely from the manga. Except this is actually from the ending of chapter 32, not 35. The end of 35 is basically Satoru and Hime bed together. Well, basically to do something. And Maron peeping on them. But that's pretty much the episode in a nutshell. Like, the changes basically were... there's... As for dialogue, mostly... They kept mostly everything in the manga. Like, for this one episode, they kept all the dialogue intact. There's not a single piece of dialogue. I think they did change a couple phrases per se, but it wasn't too bad. I would say that we had a couple minor cuts here. One was Satoru lying on a bed. The other one, which also was a scene where him are sitting on a bench where Hime is wearing just a bathrobe, and they were attempting to have sex, and then that's what lead to, well, Hime pulling the staff out. And the anime is just make out, pull the thing out. Yeah, my guess is probably they cut this out because probably for pacing, and they probably want to keep the episode going. But at least everything is mostly kept here, which good job for the anime for doing that. And you probably would think asking this. Okay, so is there a scene in the manga where Crystal and Satoru actually have sex? Yes. Yes, it does happen. It doesn't happen for a little while, though. No, it does not. So, also, another question people are probably asking. Since Cap 35, how many more chapters have to be adapted for the series? As of right now, 50. Yep, 50. Do I think before the season ends, they're going to finish up in the manga? They might get really close. Yes. I highly doubt they're going to cover 50 chapters in just, well, there are technically 12 episodes to go. And this episode they have to 4. I could say there is a slight possibility of it happening. Yes, if they keep up the 4-chapter format, they could probably definitely adapt it. Because if you think about it, 12 times 4, what is that? That's 48. I would say it's a slight maybe. Unless, of course, one of the episodes has it more, where it's more than 1 chapter per episode. Well, more than 3 chapters. It actually, since one adapted 4, could be more. It's a maybe, but that depends upon the studio, what they want to adapt. Even if, let's say, if they do 4 chapters an episode, that what probably could happen is that one of the episodes could be adapting 5 chapters. Or maybe 6. It depends upon what they want to do here. Yeah. Actually, it was 86, not 85. My mistake. But still got a while to go. Like, 50 chapters is still a while. Because it would be kind of difficult to adapt that much for the remaining 12. But that just depends, like I said. Depends on what studio, depends on what staple entertainment they want to do. Yep. So, yeah. That is pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Oh, before I end here, is there a scene in the chapters they adapted where Satoru kisses Amber or Suffer? No. The moment where Gennard tries to make out with Satoru, that was made for the anime, because right after his kiss with Nefertiti's, that's when they go straight to the room where they have to go to this area to get stronger. Yeah, that the whole moment of that was, like, I would say adding a couple anime moments was fine. It at least progresses the story. Now, another question people probably could be asking, is the entire manga released here? The answer is mostly yes. There is still one more volume released here, and it's only 15, and it's set to come out in 10 days. Yep, basically about 2 weeks. It's, according to the calendar, supposed to come out the 28th of this month. Yeah. Also, Maron herself does not have a credited voice actor. Not really sure why. Oh, it's, okay, it's interesting. It's, Lati Marquis Diaz. Interesting. That's who voices her. Alright. So, that answers that question. Yep. I'll be sure to add it later on. So, I'll see you all tomorrow for One Piece, Spy X Family, Ranma Half, Super Sentai, and hopefully Return of Ultraman, because I hope it happened today, but that didn't happen because I had all these anime to take care of. That's the only reason why. So, the only thing else might be maybe is maybe Doctor Who, okay? But see you all tomorrow. Bye.